Welcome back to GaleForceWins Season 3.
The GaleForceWins podcast is proudly sponsored by Newfound Marketing, a digital marketing agency located in St. John's, Newfoundland. Visit our website at newfoundmarketing.ca to find out how we can help your business grow. Newfound Marketing, a complement to your marketing team.
And welcome to another edition of GaleForceWins. And I want to tell you, there is a lot of cool things happening in Atlantic Canada. And I can't wait to get into conversation with two people that are leading the charge in one specific, well, actually a number of specific areas, but really under one umbrella. I'm Alan Dale, and with me as always, my good buddy, Jerry Crew. How are you, Jerry?
Doing well. We have two incredible people here, and we're going to get to know Amanda a little more. We know you, Victoria, but we're getting to know you a little more as well. The industry you're in is incredibly important to this country, and that's what really gets me every time that I'm talking to anyone involved in it.
Yep, 100%. So let's kick it off. Victoria, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Victoria Belbin. I'm the CEO for ACADA, which is the Atlantic Canadian Association for Aerospace Defence and Security. And
Mouthful.
A mouthful, absolutely. And it rolls off my tongue now, 2 years into the position. So it's a lot of learnings over the last 2 years. Yeah, and I'm joined here by our brand new employee here in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Yeah, so I'm Amanda Eade. I'm the very new Provincial Director for Newfoundland and Labrador for ACADA. So this is my fourth week on the job.
Yep.
Fourth week and already on GaleForceWins. Wow.
I've made it.
Fantastic. That's great. A really, really cool industry. Now, Victoria, you weren't always in this kind of defense aerospace industry.
No.
What was your background to get into this?
So I've come from multiple industries. My expertise is in industry governance, and I work at the association level. So I've worked in residential construction, economic development, and other industries. So when this opportunity came along, I jumped on board because it's a regional organization, which is really unique for an industry. So we encompass all of the Atlantic provinces. So our membership is spread out through Newfoundland and Labrador, PEI, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick.
Wow.
It's an incredible mandate, and when I look at your social media, you're everywhere all the time.
Well, we have staff in all of the Atlantic provinces, but it's important to get on the ground and get to know the membership. And that's the uniqueness about ACADA. From a regional perspective, we know our members really well. We have about 170 members, and the number rises almost every month. Right. Because we are so broad in our sectors, we are gaining membership because members know, or these companies know, the opportunities, and we provide a great value in programming to help build those companies to be part of that supply chain that I'm sure we're going to talk about now in a minute.
170 members. That's 170 different entities that are making an impact to our country, not only our country, but globally, many of them for sure. And there's some big, big players in that room, and there's some small players in that room that are innovative and quick thinking. Amanda, how did you find yourself in this wonderful, complex world?
Well, I'm a communicator, so I come from kind of comms and PR, and I'm definitely bringing that to ACADA in my role. So I'm really excited to kind of leading that industry promotion piece for our association now. But I most recently was with the St. John's Board of Trade as their communications and engagement manager, and before that I worked for National Public Relations. That's the largest PR firm in Canada, working with lots of different clients, and a lot of them in that energy space. So although I don't come from the A&D sector, I think I'm very used to working with businesses to level up, to get to that next level, and to work collaboratively. That's what I'm most excited about, that collaboration within the region and having businesses lift each other up and for us to help them get there. So I'm no stranger to that. So
Amanda, what was your academic journey into the communication field? I'm curious because I'm a communicator too.
Sure, yeah. So I'm a Memorial University grad, so I did a BA there in English and History, double major, and then oddly enough, I did education degree. Was in a high school teaching and thought, no, thank you. But really great presentation skills, really great experience. And then I went off and I just started working in comms. And then I came back and did a PR diploma through the University of Victoria.
Wow.
So I think a lot of my experience I've kind of learned on the job.
Yeah.
But definitely followed up with that UVic diploma after.
Yeah, that communication piece is so vital in any company, industry, institution, right? If you can't tell your story, you're kind of dead in the water, right?
Absolutely. We talk about that all the time. It doesn't really matter if we have all these great programs and we are developing really exciting strategic moves for the industry, if we can't get people involved, if we can't tell them about it. And certainly with workforce, I mean, most of our conversations this week have been about attracting that workforce of tomorrow. And if they can't hear about it, if they don't know about it, if they don't picture themselves within our industry, well, then we're not going to make any progress, no matter how great the programs. And that really is a communications job.
Amanda, you told me a story when we had coffee. If you don't mind sharing it, because I think it's really important to actually showcase to everyone why you're really a good selection for this job. You were in Fort Mac. Just tell us a little bit about this, Alan. This story is really interesting.
I was actually quite worried about what story you were going to ask me to tell. I was very lucky to work for National Public Relations for a few years, and it's really an amazing, amazing organization. They're all across the country. Some of the smartest, most strategic people I've ever met work for National. And so I feel very lucky that my kind of subject area expertise was crisis. So when really bad things happen, I would be called on by certain clients to help be the public information officer within that. So at the very beginning of COVID, this was like when we were still having the debate about whether masks were good or not, that type of COVID. I got called to respond to the flooding crisis in Fort Mac with the national team. So of course there's, letters that have to happen from government to allow me to leave and come back. It was a Red Cross response, so I was thankfully able to leave. I had to sew my own masks, like there was none available, so just like that learning was very scary but exciting. I was the only person on the plane from here to Toronto, and then, got to Fort Mac. And of course, National was very worried about their staff, took really good care of us. But, the 3 people coming in for relief had to have their own vehicles. I'm not a very good driver, as Victoria has learned. So it was like white knuckles.
You drove her this morning.
Yeah, she did. She drove me. I'm not a great driver. So they were like, no, Amanda, you have to drive this car. So it's so funny that I had no worries about my ability to do my job. It was all the other things around it. But what an experience. So we were in crisis response for about a week, and I got to experience Fort McMurray. And I think as a Newfoundlander, so many folks that I know have made their living in Fort Mac, started their careers in Fort Mac. I mean, I think the economic impact of paychecks that have come into this province from Fort McMurray is massive. So it was definitely a life-changing experience, honestly, and then came back and was in isolation for 2 weeks, and no one really quite knew what to do with me. And that was the very early days of COVID. So that was a real privilege, but very difficult. Yeah,
that's a great story, and I have to say this: what a gifted storyteller you are! That's fantastic.
That's good.
You weave a great story.
I told you she wouldn't disappoint.
Yeah,
that's my job.
Stay on with you, Amanda, for just a little bit longer. Amanda, you're 4 weeks into the gig.
Yeah.
What are your initial impressions about this industry? Don't feel pressured with your boss.
My
right
boss
next
is
to you.
right here.
Yeah.
No, I'm always honest. You've learned that about me. I'm really quite floored. I think it's a big industry, right? And so I knew the economic impact. How do you put it? Land, sea, and air. So it really is this all-encompassing industry. I knew there was a lot of tech innovation within this industry, which is really exciting to me. But I think it's really, it takes you aback.
Right.
When you start digging into what these companies are doing and the variety of them, it's a little overwhelming, but really exciting. And to see the potential, it's there. And so for me, being the Provincial Director for Newfoundland and Labrador, really starting to learn about our members here and the potential here, is very exciting. And that expertise in northern and harsh climates, the expertise in marine, our amazing programs through places like the Marine Institute and College of the North Atlantic. So just seeing the potential for Newfoundland and Labrador has been probably the most exciting piece for me, but also kind of broadening my horizon to learn about the regional piece. That was the most exciting part for me about ACADA, because I'm a really strong believer in a collaboration. So I think that as Atlantic Canadians, I think we're all going to succeed together, and I really love the idea of like rowing together in the same direction. So that's my first impression, and I think that ACADA as an organization is very regionally focused. So that's very refreshing. It's everyone working together. It's not how many companies do we have in Halifax? How many companies do we have in New Brunswick? I want my piece of the pie. It's not like that. It's about everyone as an industry rising up together. So that's my first impression. It's super positive.
100% positive, right? And you've highlighted a lot of cool things there, right? Collaboration and industry, government, academia, everybody working together, but regionally as well. I mean, this is a powerful, powerful group that you have in front of you and can really move a lot of markers for not only the region, but for the country. And as I said at the beginning, globally. So on that note, Victoria, tell us what's exciting in ACADA these days. What's going on? I know membership is growing. We've been at a lot of defense shows. We've talked to a lot of your members. Great things happening, and kudos to you for driving this conversation forward. You're front and center everywhere. Every time I turn on LinkedIn or Facebook, you're doing something. So tell us what's exciting right now.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, listen, all I can say is Amanda has jumped in feet first, 1 month in, and
not head first.
Oh, head first,
a little
like
bit.
a whole body slam.
That's what it feels like. That a whole body slam.
I'll have to edit a picture of the body slam.
An amazing addition to the team, and we've had some staff turnover, which is natural. A lot of organizations are going through this, and we also have another rock star in Nova Scotia, Melinda Matchett, who joined us maybe a month before Amanda, and hopefully you'll get to meet her soon. So, and we have Alan Campbell in PEI and Lisa Clory in New Brunswick. So, and then we have support staff in our Halifax office. So we have an amazing team that has really risen out of the original 2016 organization. We were an amalgamation of 4 provincial organizations. So ACADA is a relatively young organization. And so I came from organizations that were 70 years old. Or you think about the Board of Trade.
50 plus years old.
Right? So well-established membership. So this is relatively new, and new in a sense of industry association. So this is an evolution for ACADA. And we are envisioning ACADA 2.0. And so over the last year, we've gone through a strategic planning exercise with our board and staff, and really figuring out what's the organization, what does the organization need to do and become to really deliver strong programming for SMEs and for building that supply chain. So that's what our focus is, or has been over the last year. And now what we were talking about, we're building our work plan for this coming year for our partners. And our partners are OCOA and the provincial governments, because they are heavily collaborative with us in our program delivery. So that's what we've been working on over the last year. So when we're talking about the future, ACADA 2.0 in the next couple of years is we're going to really step up and become stronger than what we really are, but very focused on program delivery for the SMEs. Yeah, and you probably remember last year we were talking about the Mock Atlantic program that has launched. That is really, we're going to be making a big announcement in the next couple of weeks on that. A cohort 1 is ready to go. So we've really done a lot of groundwork over the last year to really step up and be much stronger.
And there's a lot of really cool things happening all around us, right? Whether it's the shipbuilding, whether it's, a new aircraft for the defense, whether it's even the whole ocean supercluster and everything around that. There's so many good things happening in this region. And in Newfoundland, if you look at kind of hydrogen development and ports like Argentia coming alive, this has a direct impact on your members. Must be exciting.
It's very exciting.
Very exciting. My first member that I got to visit was PAL. So, I mean, I think I'm a bit of a nerd. Like, I do love a industrial site. I do love a behind the scenes. I do. They knew I was just buzzing when I got in there and seeing all the aircraft kind of coming and going and getting to kind of see a little bit of behind the scenes of what they had going on in the hangar and really hearing about their global impact. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. What an amazing organization, employer. Right here at home. And I just think for me, that was like such a wonderful first kind of member meeting to get to meet those folks in our kind of Newfoundland membership. So there is an exciting time and there's lots to come. I mean, the opportunities are really endless if we can meet the demand with our workforce and make sure kind of young people and others see themselves in the industry. Really, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, but PAL is a great example. I mean, PAL, here's a company in our region that's having a global impact, right? Yeah. With the very fabric of our community. Absolutely. PAL employs a lot of people, and they're doing amazing work around the globe. I'm so glad you picked up on that. Sorry, Victoria, interrupted you there.
No, not at all. Like, just to build off of what Amanda was talking about, we have great companies that have come out of Memorial University, the Marine Institute. We've got the College of the North Atlantic. We've got a lot of strong players in the ecosystem here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we do that in PEI, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. So connecting industry, academia, and government and industry association, this is the sweet spot of building a really strong industry here, and we know what the opportunities are. So we want to foster those relationships at a local level within the province, but also at a regional level.
Sorry, Alan, it's really important, I think, listening to Amanda talk about her visit to PAL. What I like about that is you telling that story motivates the rest of the province, not just Newfoundland, but Atlantic Canada. The opportunities need to be told. The stories of these companies need to be told to help motivate the young people that there's opportunity. Right?
Absolutely. And that's the value, I think, sometimes of an industry association because, well, there's so many values, but I think when we talk about our members, they have their heads down in their business. They are experts in what they do, right? They're focusing on their people, they're focusing on their product, their service. And so sometimes it does take kind of someone else that are tapped in and can get excited about what they're doing and then tell that story. I mean, that's obviously what I'm passionate about as communicator, is storytelling. But I think it's not just storytelling. I think that sometimes we talk about, and that's a warm fuzzy and whatever. But no, that's where rubber hits the road, I think. And I think that's where we get the government attention. That's where we get the public's attention. That's where we get the youth's attention. So I do think that storytelling about this collaboration and bringing everyone together is actually where business happens. I really, truly believe that. And, I think coming from like the Board of Trade and other places like that, you see that in action. That networking, that connecting, and that storytelling does make business happen, and it affects our economy. It makes it better, and I think that's something that we've all been talking about, certainly in this province and everywhere, really, at post-COVID. Is how do we bolster our economy? How do we help people? How do we get people in well-paying jobs? All of those great conversations. I don't think that happens without people coming together in a collaborative way and finding those opportunities for us to succeed on a global scale.
Allow me to pick up on that. Do you think that can be replicated everywhere? Because it happens here fairly successfully. There's something about this region in Canada, this part of the world, where I think we genuinely understand that a rising tide floats all boats, and we want to work collectively together, whether you are a heavy government funding agency like an ACOA, whether you're one of the provinces that you mentioned, or whether you're an academic institution. You so rightly point out the Marine Institute, 10 incredible centers of innovation and excellence there that feed into you, and all of those SMEs that are surrounding it, and some big players as well in the mix. Does it happen everywhere, do you think, or is this an Atlantic Canadian thing? Are we just better at it here?
Well, I think that Atlantic Canadians have the ability to kind of find out, I think it's a very natural thing for us to be open and want to improve what we're doing and be collaborative and do B2B on a more regional basis. I think that there's a little bit of an openness.
Right.
Maybe that's out of our past and our history of, working together to make things happen. And maybe it could be the environment that we live in. But I always talk about our secret sauce, and our secret sauce for ACADA. Always bring it back to ACADA and our membership. We know our members. We know them by first name.
Right.
We visit.
Yeah.
We know what their successes are. We know what their challenges are, and encouraging them and giving them the right information and providing those opportunities where they interact with like-minded organizations already on that same path. So I think that's the great thing about Atlantic Canada. It's not Newfoundland and Labrador against Nova Scotia or PEI or New Brunswick. We're building that regional collaboration in all these sectors.
We see that, Al and I spent some time at Cove and
absolutely.
Great
now the
example.
launch is coming. I mean, those places are exciting to be around the people
It's
there.
amazing. And our new innovation center here, I do think it's funny as an Atlantic Canadian or Newfoundlander and Labradorian, I think that we are kind of in each other's business a little bit in Atlantic Canada and in Newfoundland and Labrador. So to what Victoria was saying, we are interested.
Right.
So I think that is a little cultural, to kind of be, I know him. He's my cousin's uncle's brother, whatever.
Right.
And so to have that little bit of a family energy about Atlantic Canada, I do think that bleeds into business. I really do.
Yeah. And if you've got a problem, we share.
That's the thing.
We share, and if you have a problem, I'm gonna connect you to this guy over here or this lady over here that are they are doing something that you might be interested in, and that's a very collaborative model. Yeah. We do this event in. We've been doing it in Nova Scotia, and we're looking at taking it around the region. It's called Connector. Have you ever attended one of our Connector events?
I have,
we partner through Springboard, which is a collaboration of all of our post-secondary institutions. And we bring academia and our businesses together and do these pitches. And boy, it's a fascinating model because it's automatic connection. And I believe that doing it in Atlantic Canada, we do have people that try to come in from outside of Atlantic Canada, but we try to kind of like, this is, but with it's a very natural connection that happens. And then the energy in the room afterwards, once you present your idea or your 4-minute pitch, whether it's academia or the business, that energy in the room just is electric, right? So I think that we foster that type of environment here in Atlantic Canada, whether it's in this industry or another. I think that naturally happens.
I've worked in an Atlantic Canadian SME in the defense sector, and I've also worked in an Atlantic Canadian university connecting academia and industry together. And I can tell you firsthand, having touched it and felt it, that ACADA was perhaps one of the largest tools in my toolbox at any given time, because I knew that I could reach out and I could get problem solved through that association. And membership did have its privileges. We were all really connected together. I tell you, there's one thing that Jerry and I have come to realize over our work in your sector, whether it be at a mass show or whether it be at a DefSec or a CanSec, is that there's a real hunt for top talent. And everybody is kind of on the lookout for the top talent. And as an association, that has to be top of mind for you as well. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a top of mind right now.
Exciting,
So we are currently developing some programming that we want to be able to help SMEs attract that top talent. We know from our member surveys and our engagement with small businesses that not all businesses have the HR departments that some of the larger organizations, or the communication departments to get the messaging out. So ACADA is building programming for SMEs to help with that recruitment. So let me just tell you how Amanda. So this is a really interesting story that some organizations may use very traditional ways of recruitment, and then are challenged because they may be getting hundreds of applications, but they're having a hard time kind of finding that gold nugget in amongst all of the interest that they're getting. We knew that we wanted specific talent on our team in our new recruitment strategy. And we had a lot of learnings through this. So we didn't take a traditional route. We used a recruiter, and we said, go find the person, but we don't want you to do this in a very traditional way. So we tasked them with finding key skills in certain regions of what we wanted. And then they brought them to us. And I don't believe, as females in particular, as we're trying to attract new people into this industry, sometimes we're not out there looking for that next opportunity.
Yeah.
We may already be in a position that we're okay and we're fulfilled, but may not know where that next opportunity is. So we actually use different tools to attract our 2 latest recruits, where the recruiter went out and found them and tapped them on the shoulder and said, hey, would you be interested? And Amanda can talk about that experience. But ACADA, we're learning from that, that we know there are companies out there looking for specific talent, and they just don't have the resources or the time to be able to do it. So we are kind of looking at how we can help our companies do that at a mid-level and higher range, but also from a skills range. How can we explore new territory in trying to find that?
Well, you know what? I love what you said. You're practicing what you're preaching.
100%.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to go to the members and say, look, this is what we did. So tell us a little bit about that.
Tell us about the tap on the shoulder.
I mean, it was truly a tap via LinkedIn. But I think the interesting thing is recruiters have access to tools on LinkedIn. That's their expertise. I mean, I couldn't even begin to understand the expertise because it's not mine. But certainly it was, I was just chugging along. I had a fabulous job. It is a fabulous job. I'm excited for the next person that gets to have it. But it is that interesting thing where you say, I love my job. I'm good. You're just typing. Again, that head down in your business. You're doing it. So it was. I mean, I think it's very flattering. First of all, when someone comes and says, I think you would be a great fit for this job. I've seen your resume essentially on LinkedIn. I've asked around. And I think when the recruiter sent me the job description, I said, no, that's not me. And she said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so it was an interesting to just have a 5-minute conversation with me. So you never say no to that. Yeah, sure, a 5-minute conversation. But I genuinely was like, director? No. But then when she chatted with me, I think we got to know each other a little bit. And I think when it happens that way, you're extra honest as well. I'm not looking, you're looking for me. So it was an interesting exchange. And I think it allowed us to be very honest about the opportunity. And it also allowed me the confidence to say, oh, well, you're telling me that I'm a good fit for that. It's not me coming to you, you're coming to me. So it's not me just throwing my hat in a ring, which is also very valuable. I've applied for jobs that way because you see something and you say, that gets me excited. So then you put your best foot forward in that way. So I think it's learning that there's lots of different ways to hire. And I think what we know is it's an extremely competitive job market. The talent is, few and far between. Lots of different companies are fighting for the same person or the same group of people. We know that we have like a global workforce now. So you could sit in Newfoundland and work in Toronto, right? Like the things that used to protect, I guess, our workforce here or there are gone. So I think it's exciting to think about helping SMEs get to that next step to say, well, how can I attract that top talent? And also just arming them with information that they may not have. What is the pay scale? Because you are now competing with the bigger provinces, all these things. Maybe there's a whole pool of talent in London, England,
Right.
that you just don't know about.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a center of excellence for what you're looking for in Australia. Like, we just don't know what we don't know. So I think that's kind of the exciting piece for me.
The other thing that we're doing is building a career pathway.
Yeah.
Currently, we have within our membership right now a labor market gap analysis survey. We need to know. We have an idea, but we're just gathering the data, what the needs are for the next couple of years in our industry. And we know that, there's lots of very talented people coming out of our academic institutions. And sometimes they just don't know what the opportunities are.
Right.
No.
We want to, just like every other industry, want to be that opportunity of choice. So what we're looking at is ways we can connect and get into those programs and identify and help those students, those new graduates, connect them with an employer
Right.
and give them and show them where they fit in. We're an association world, but we're meeting lots of other females within our organizations, our SMEs, that, they may be the only female on staff at the executive level. We want to be able to rise them up. Maybe they can become mentors. Maybe they can help, and we could help rise them up, but they could also help attract the next generation. So those are the things that we're looking at, is building a pathway for young people, but also supporting people within the industry.
Now, are underrepresented groups in your industry right now a focal point for you?
Absolutely.
So tell me
100%.
about that.
Yeah. So we are looking not only at, youth, women, new Canadians, veterans, Indigenous youth.
Yeah.
So those are our those are the areas that we're looking into right now. We're building stronger relationships with retired veterans and reservists. And with Indigenous youth, we're looking at ways that we could help with that. We've got some companies already that are employing Indigenous youth, and how do we support them and help build their pipelines? So those are the target areas, and that's where we want to really focus in on building the career path for those sections. Here we are in Newfoundland and Labrador. Right. And we know that there's lots of new people that have come in from other countries, in particular Ukraine. And I'm volunteering with an organization now, Task Force NL, that is currently working with the ANC and government to help place individuals in jobs. And it's incredible to see the talent that we have. And so how do we capture that talent, and how do we support that talent, and how do we make those connections into industry? It's really important.
Yeah. And I mean, it starts with kind of, showing people there's a place for them.
Absolutely.
And sometimes showing people that there's a place for them is showing people that folks like yourself in leadership positions, right? So if I'm a young woman in an engineering program right now at MUN or UPEI or UNB, and saying, do I really fit into that industry? And I have to tell you, 10 years ago, if they had walked onto the defense show floor, they would have said, I don't fit here.
Exactly.
This is not for me.
Yeah, right.
It's changing quite a bit. In this room right now, it's changing, leading our industry association, right? And Lisa in New Brunswick and Melinda in Nova Scotia, right? So that's an important focus for sure. You must be very proud of the fact that you're leading by example here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, we know for a fact that a diverse and inclusive workforce is a stronger workforce. We know that. Yeah. That is a fact. So, the business case for hiring and promoting diversity is that you're going to do better. You're going to make more money. Really, at the end of the day,
investment is stronger.
It is absolutely important. We know that now. So it's how do we get there, and how do we provide the tools and training? And so we're really looking at, and this is something I'm super passionate about. I'm a volunteer with the St. John's Status Women Council, have been for years. I mean, feminism is kind of a big theme in my life. And certainly I think having been a woman in male-dominated industries, we are no strangers to the roadblocks. And I think we all know, if you can picture yourself there, if you can see yourself in the industry, you may be more likely to reach for it. So how do we make it so that children coming up see their dream job in our industry.
Right.
How do we make it so that that woman or Indigenous youth or veteran or someone else that maybe we want them in our workforce, how do we make it so that they feel that's the place for me? And so we're going to work really hard on that. And that's going to take everyone, right? So that's not just a marketing thing.
No.
We need to make sure that our SMEs and our businesses are ready to receive them. How do we create a sense of belonging? So we're actually looking at, as part of our HR program for the coming year, doing some training on diversity, inclusion, and belonging in the workforce. How do you create a welcoming culture? But then also on the other side, how do you recruit? How do you have people understand that they're welcome? And then from kind of the public messaging piece, like our website and other things, how do we profile those folks? How do we lift them up to say, this woman is a senior manager in aerospace? That could be you. So we're excited about that. And I think, you know, being female leaders ourselves, you're aware of the opportunities, but you're also very acutely aware of the challenges.
It's interesting how you position that, because when you originally talked about being recruited, you said the word director.
I know.
I guess there was a bit of imposter syndrome and
is
all
real.
that there.
Yeah.
So you're an incredibly articulate, talented person.
I would have said director out of the gate.
Well, once you get to chat with her,
bossy.
but what I'm trying to
We
highlight
need to
here,
foster it.
Yeah.
We need to foster
someone
these.
who is incredibly
Absolutely.
talented and confident still had question marks.
But I was raised in this culture of that, so it's still, even when you're aware of it, that internalized, patriarchy basically is there. And, even when you know better, you can do better. So I think that is something we're always learning. And I think we're all of us are always learning how to take better care of each other and how to be more welcoming. And certainly in Newfoundland and Labrador, like, our arms are open to new people coming here. Yeah. And how wonderful is that? So then how do we then find a way culturally to make sure that everyone's welcome in the workforce as well? And I think we're doing a super job of it.
Well, I remember in university, I had a friend who was from Malaysia, and he said to me, Jerry, you're just so wealthy here in Newfoundland. And I didn't get what he was saying, but he said, where he comes from, it's wall to wall to wall to wall people.
Yeah,
and he sees Newfoundland as being wealthy from space perspective, resources, and all of that, right?
And we are. We're very lucky to live here. I feel that every day. Yeah.
So, your members out there, big and small, what would you say to them that ACADA can do to them to hit this challenge right on the head? And specifically, I'll talk about women in the industry or any underrepresented. What tools do you have in your toolbox to help those SMEs out there right now that want the top talent? They want it.
Well, there's two things. There's one, supporting the women that are already in the industry, and the other one is showcasing, like what Amanda just said, showcasing so that other women can see. It's also mentoring. Mentoring is a piece that has always been challenging, whether you're in it, because I've been in businesses where, there's an idea, we want to create mentoring, but it's really challenging. Do you formalize it? Do we keep it informal? Those sorts of things. But we could probably we're in the process of kind of building those tools and rising those individuals up so that people can say, there's an opportunity for that woman to be a mentor, potentially for younger women. But it's also building the peer-to-peer networks within the industry for women. So we're looking at hosting a women in leadership retreat later in March for the region, for the industry, and really figure out how we can kind of strengthen that network already in our industry, but then also empower that network to get bigger and stronger. So as women become more empowered and become more aware of who they are, and their power of also being able to become mentors for other women. I would love to see that happen within this industry.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's definitely tools in the toolbox.
Yes, absolutely. So we're building those building blocks for us to help individuals within our SMEs, but also help the tools that the SMEs need to do that. So it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
We're also going to launch a HR fundamentals program, to be named, but that will help as well, not just with women, but in general with this recruitment of workforce and workforce development. So that'll be a program that runs through the year. We're still in development, but that's exciting. So that's for everyone, right? So I think that's another piece of it. How do we excel as SMEs in that area? Maybe when we don't have the HR department or we don't have, so we're going to be able to extend their teams to make sure that they have a welcoming place to work, but also that they can go recruit on a global scale. So I think it's all kind of going to layer together.
I like that, including everyone's important.
It's everyone.
Because everybody wants to have a inclusive workplace.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think because we're an association that serves many businesses of many sizes, we can't hone in on one thing. So we need to make sure that we're thinking of everyone. And I think our labor market analysis that's out in the world right now, we're going to get back, is really going to help us hone in on what are those target areas, what are the skill sets that are of most need to our industry in the coming years, and then we can really target our actions to those areas of most need.
You know, and the other side of it too is that people will listen to this. Our audience is broad, it's global, it's, you know, and there'll be people that you're focusing on right now that are listening to this conversation say, maybe I can fit in there. How do those people reach out? How do they, if I'm a young person sitting in an engineering program or something right now, or I'm a person who's just arriving in Canada, looking at all of my options and probably have some incredible foundation, skill set that I want to share with people. How do they reach out? What's a best approach to get into this incredible industry?
So I think the best thing right now, number one, is keep an eye on our website and our social media challenges. That's where we're pushing information out. But it's also at our we do events in all of the provinces. Right. So we have one event coming up here in Newfoundland and Labrador, and that's MASS. That's Maritime Arctic Security and Safety Conference. 10th anniversary. It's going to happen here. I think it's the 24th and 25th of July. Yeah. And what we usually do is reach out to the academic institutions, and we target and we bring in students into that environment. So we did it last year. We had maybe 10, 15 students that we had for a day. And we had volunteers within the industry, and we had some academic societies, SNAMI in particular, and that's the Society for Naval Architects. And so we had that interaction, and they had that conversation to build that pathway into the industry, and they met companies from all over the region, as well as some primes outside of Atlantic Canada, and really making those connections. We're going to do the same thing at DevSec Atlantic in Halifax in October, where we're going to have the day of academic day of connection, which will be a student interaction. So we're going to bring students from all of the region, throughout the region, to DevSec, and that's where the showcase of the industry happens. Right. So we're making those connections. So it is through our social channels, but then also keeping an eye on our website to find out where our events are and the job postings that we have. Yeah,
you know, we experienced that at DevSec last year.
Yes.
You brought a young lady to us, was
incredible.
Wonderful person. Incredible. I can't remember her name right now, but Thunder Bay she was from. Phenomenal. Really.
And you did a podcast.
We did.
Yes. And Tallis brought her in. And she was a work term student.
That's right.
And I will get, so you can put the ticker name on the podcast. But there are incredible individuals. And this was an individual who's not necessarily an engineer and not a scientist and not a data scientist or a computer scientist. This industry needs like we need business, we need finance, HR, communications. There's so many opportunities here, and we made connection with so many students, and they made connections with the businesses that were on the floor. So we're hoping to really kind of ramp that up this year with.
Sorry for cutting out, but you know what? I think when you think back, it was so intimidating to come out of university and just. You look at someone who's settled, you know, the three of us here who are a little bit older than you, you know, there's a lot of intimidation there. Not,
oh my goodness, yes.
Not intentional, but as a person, a young person. So I love that, what you're saying, almost like a mini career fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also preparing them for the conversations
Yeah.
Right.
with as they go through, how do you prepare yourself to, and I know that's working with the institutions and the work term programs. I'm just making sure that, what are their expectations and just how do they communicate. So we're excited about those opportunities.
And you should be.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And we know some of those individuals that are making their way into some of those businesses now that we made connections for last year. So I'm excited for what's to come.
Isn't that an amazing thing when you see those connections play out in front of you? Somebody that you may have made contact with as a student now working in the industry, to see all that play out. We've witnessed that through your through your events where we were on board and doing some conversations. I know two, at least, people that wound up in the industry, students that, and it's just such an amazing feeling to know that they're in conversation and you're thinking to yourself, my God, this person has something to add. And then to watch it actually play out, it must be amazing. So go ahead.
Could I add? So we also take on students every year. Every term we've got new students and they're coming in and out and in and out. And we're building champions for the industry. So just earlier this week we've got a work term student in Halifax and she participated in a job fair at Dal. And so we just put them right up front because they become and she had interaction with hundreds of students that day. And so our team are standing behind her and it's a different language. And so we're learning from that interaction. We had a student panel at our Sea to Sky conference in PEI where we had 4 youth who were kind of in the industry, one of our work term students and 3 in the industry, and learning from their experiences and sharing that out. We're learning just as much that they are from us. We are learning from them as well.
When Cassidy was speaking, the whole team was just leaning in. And it's certainly for myself, leading comms, and then our colleague Melissa, who manages marketing for ACADA, you're almost scribbling down the words she's saying because she's the person we're trying to attract, and she's a marketing student. So we're very lucky to have those students to learn from, because if they need to tell us what they need to hear as well, right? Who are we to say, well, this is what's going to attract the youth of tomorrow.
You know what we should do? We should get one of the work term students and maybe you could sit and interview
There you
them.
go. That would be perfect. Just really pick their brains.
We have had incredible young people work with us and learn so much from them. It's been fantastic.
Well,
so that's a great idea.
That would be
because
very
I
fun.
want to learn more.
Well, we're going to be surrounded by students this year, and I think that's more and more and more, and bringing them in by the busload to these events, and making sure that they see themselves, or at least they have the opportunity to explore the industry and see if they want to be in it. Right?
Yeah, because they're looking at it through a different lens than we are, right?
Absolutely.
And they're looking for that social responsibility, and all of those things exist in this industry.
They matter.
Everything matters, and to just lay it out in front of them so that they can make their own decisions. It's just sometimes the tough part is getting them in the door, right?
Exactly.
Just getting them in the door.
What an exciting time. For them.
Oh, 100%.
What an exciting time for a young person to come out of an academic program. But the challenge I know, because I'm a mom of 3, they don't know the pathway. And so what an opportunity for our industry, to go to those programs and just really wrap our arms around them and say, you know what? Here we are.
I find as a parent,
cool, here's how you get
as a parent, they don't often want to listen to us.
So that's right.
A third party telling them, then maybe they'll listen, right?
We need to put our work term student there, and they'll listen to her.
And the pathway into this industry and throughout this industry can be really diverse and exciting. Just when you start in, it doesn't have to end that way because there's so many areas you can travel in here.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And the ultimate goal here is to ensure that our SMEs have the workforce to be ready for the opportunities that are there and that are coming. Because we know in this industry it's growing strong, and if they don't have if they don't have the capability to build and grow, they meaning the SMEs, it's going to be a struggle. So that's our ultimate goal.
And can you imagine as an SME how good it feels? And I know, again, I speak to this through experience. It's a great feeling to know that my association, the team I'm on, has my back on this stuff because I don't have time. Right now, I'm making this container for this type of ship. Right. I don't have time to worry about all of this stuff. As much as I want to be in this conversation, at some points, I'm making this container for this ship. You know, and to know that my association, the broader community behind me, is thinking about this to make sure that I am successful and they are attracting the right people for me into the future. That's an amazing feeling. Right?
That's the goal.
And then we match it up with programs like the Mock Atlantic program that helps build suppliers for the supply chain. Right? It strengthens that. So that's twofold. It's workforce development and the other pillar that we call, so the two focuses of the organization this year, workforce development and enhanced competitiveness. And so that's where we want to build the companies and help them with the people, the systems, the processes, for them to strengthen and be strong so that they can get into the supply chain.
There's one thing, every time I get into conversations with people from ACADA, it just burns in my head. It's just this overwhelming feeling of collaboration. It's just it's just no competition.
We can't do it alone. You can't solve these problems alone.
It's just a full-on collaboration. And that doesn't exist everywhere, right?
No, and it's positive. You know, our members as well, our member companies, they are probably part of other industry associations that help them with other parts of their business. And, you know, like Victoria said, we're not in competition. It's about everyone kind of playing their role. And, you know, what we always try and figure out and learning is where do we fit? How can we help? What's our sweet spot? You know, where, say, a Newfoundland member may be a part of TechNL because they are a technology company, but they're also a part of our sector. So then these different groups can help in different ways and work together, that collaborative approach to lift each company up, but also the industry and the economy as a whole. So I think collaboration is absolutely key.
She gets it for sure. And you know, everybody gets it. You know, I remember last year at Mass, Admiral Santarpia talking about the importance of ACADA. And it's important to him that this industry works well. I mean, he's on the pointy end of this thing, right? I remember Peter McKay, who's probably one of the more strategic thinkers in this field in our country, talking about ACADA and how important it was. I remember Mohsin Mohammadi out of UNB, again, a leader in additive manufacturing in the defense sector, preaching about the importance of ACADA, and then students talking about ACADA. So everybody gets it. Everybody is on board. You guys are doing amazing work.
Well, and thank you for helping us spread the word. GaleForceWins has been a great collaborator with us over the last year. You were with us at Mass and then at DevSec. And so thank you, both of you, for helping us get those messages
This is not hard work for us. We like, this is we like being in this conversation.
I know, this is
coffee.
Good coffee, good chat for our morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your coffee was good. I made the
It was
coffee.
excellent. It was perfect. I have a branded mug even.
Yes, you do. The other ones were broken. I've been using them in the
feel
family.
very special.
We need to get some more. I just want to say thank you. Two amazing leaders. This conversation has been fantastic. Can't wait to share it with our network because you're doing great things. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I can't wait for the year to come.
I know, we'll be in touch. It's going to be exciting and keep an eye. And certainly, I've appreciated all the content you've done for ACADA because it's helped me learn about ACADA as I've gotten into it. So thank you. It's been fun.
Well, another wonderful conversation on GaleForceWins, and I can tell you this is what leadership and vision looks like for our region of the world, and indeed having a great impact, not only regionally, but nationally and globally. So thank you very much, and I can tell you, you guys are on the right track, and I say it again, as a person who was on the other end of this, as an SME, and on the other end in an academic institution, a lot of the things that we are doing in this country could not be achieved without organizations like yours. So thank you very much. The world needs more ACADA.
Thank you for tuning in to GaleForceWins. That's GaleForceWins, WINS.com.